Hey y'all, you have wandered on back to the McCripple channel, and if this is your first time, then welcome. I'm super thrilled you're here. Today I want to talk about one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the past 36 years, but mainly over the past 16 years since I got hurt. This topic has continually risen in importance to me over the years as I see the world need it more and more, especially these days. This is one I want all the kids in every school to listen to and learn, not for views for me, but because it will make the world a much better place if more people realize this. The whole world needs to realize this because a lot of adults have never even learned this lesson. And it's something that I think a lot of people just won't learn until they're at the end of their lives, and some miserable people will never learn it. And some will hear but not listen. When I told my mentee Avery about this, she was like, people really need to hear this. And she told her mom about it, and her mom said she needs to make that video like now. So here goes. When I first wrote my book, the most important thing for me was to try to raise awareness about brain aneurysms and depression, and to try to help people not give up. But as the years have gone on, sharing this lesson has become really, really important to me, at least as important as raising awareness, if not more, because this could help the whole world. When you're lying there in a hospital bed, staring at what could be the end of your life, thinking back on all the things you did, all the mistakes you made, all the regrets you have, and people you wronged, you know what you're going to realize was the most important thing, besides family and friends and loved ones? Kindness. The simple ingredient to a happy world, to a happy you, to good relationships, just kindness. It's not hard, but it's amazing what a lack of it can do. Look at what we're dealing with right now in the world. There's so much unnecessary hatred, and people are at each other's throats. So many of our world's problems can be helped, if not downright solved, by just showing kindness. It doesn't matter what color you are or someone else is, what religion, what political affiliation, what gender, however you self-identify.
However you choose to self-identify.
It's kindness, people. Kindness, love, and compassion. Start at home with the people you live with. Show kindness to them, and I can almost guarantee each one of you will want to go out and show kindness to the others you encounter in the day. And then those people in turn will too. But if you start out the day being mean, nitpicky, and nasty with each other, with the ones you live with, you're all most likely going to go about your day in a foul mood, probably spreading more negativity, resentment, and anger to the people you interact with. Start with kindness, and everyone's days will be brighter, including the strangers you pass. Because the times you withheld it from people will weigh on you eventually, unless you're just an asshole. I remember lying in my hospital bed. I'm pretty sure it was when I was in the neuro ICU after the second brain aneurysm hemorrhaged. I'm not 100% positive about that. I did have ICU psychosis, so it's kind of a muddled time memory-wise. But whenever I think back to having this revelation, I remember lying in a bed in that big dark pod. And I started thinking of all the people I'd wronged in my life for the past 19 years leading up to them. They weighed on me, and I felt such deep regret for the times I'd been mean to someone or screwed them over, especially people I'd been friends with. I remember lying there thinking, oh gosh, Jenny, what I did to Jenny. She was one of my best friends freshman year of high school. Sometimes she'd get on my nerves and I could be such a bitch to her. But the worst thing I did was, when her boyfriend became interested in me, instead of rebuffing him and not betraying my best friend, I went along with it and wound up quickly falling in love with him. Ugh, gross. But not until after I helped him break up with her. He was already two-timing her with two other chicks, so that should have told me a lot about him and his non-existent character. He broke up with those two, and then I helped him break up with Jenny. It was a horrible thing to do, especially considering she'd been such a wonderful friend to me when others had shunned me. When I was 15, earlier in that previously mentioned freshman year, I was groomed by a 20-year-old guy. He was basically 21. He turned 21 the month after I ran off. I'd never heard of grooming. I don't know if anyone had at that point. No one I knew had. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get into that whole story. I don't really like talking about it. But the short version is that I went to school the day after Halloween, got myself out of class with a note I'd forged. I'm pretty sure it was first period, like right at the start of the day. And then I hid in a downstairs bathroom until he was outside to pick me up. Then I got in his car, we drove off, and I stayed with him for the next couple days. They are some of the darkest, most depressing, anxious days in my memory, so I avoid thinking about them. Anyway, the Monday after I'd gotten back, the only friends who would talk to me were Jenny and our good guy friend Alex. Well, Elena, the girl who'd introduced me to the guy I ran off with, talked to me too, but Jenny and Alex and I had made a plan, and they met me outside school in the drop-off area so I didn't have to walk in alone. From what I'd been told, the entire school had been talking about it, and it was a really big school. Jenny had been a great friend to me, which makes what I did to her way, way worse. I regretted it for years, and lying in that dark ICU pod, the memories of what I'd done to her flooded back and haunted me. Fortunately, I found her on Instagram a couple years ago, after not being able to find her every time I looked on Facebook. My mom had always told me, if you ever write to or apologize to Jenny, it's going to sound like you joined this 12-step program. I told Jenny that when I wrote her a long message on Instagram and explained how badly I'd always felt for repaying her loyal friendship with bitchy disloyalty. She was so magnanimous and sweet about it. She said that she'd never sat around upset about it, and she was so sorry that I'd spent all those years worried and beating myself up about it. I couldn't believe that all those years after I was so horrible to her, she was saying she felt sorry for me. You could tell she was a mom because she was just really sweet and understanding about it. She's got the cutest little boy. She said, we were kids. That's how we develop empathy. And she was right, and she's a really sweet person. Kindness is huge in a marriage too. My husband and I have discovered many important elements for a happy marriage over the years. Communication, of course. Honesty, loyalty. We've both always been very loyal people, minus the disloyalty I showed to Jenny that we just talked about. And we're fiercely loyal to each other. But two of the simplest and most important elements are kindness and respect, and they go hand in hand. I can't tell you how many unhappy marriages I've seen that are palpably toxic because one or both spouses are unkind to each other. It's no wonder. How could you possibly be happy when the person who swore to love and cherish you above all others, whose opinion and love you probably care about most, treats you like dirt? It's really not that hard to be kind to people. Well, most people anyway. Some people are just assholes. It comes pretty easily when you have empathy or you develop it. Empathy might not come easily to everyone, but I do think you can try to teach yourself to develop it. Maybe I'll do a video about that. It's one advantage that we brain injured people have. For many of us, we come out the other side with much more empathy. And a lot of us, myself included, can almost have too much. We feel others' pain as much as our own. I've had what's called emotional lability ever since my brain injuries, which can make it very hard to control my emotions. And going through something traumatic, perhaps especially health-related trauma, makes you realize that bad shit happens to everyone. Any Superman complex or arrogance you have is shattered. and you realize that no one is immune from tragedy or drama. Trauma, sorry, both. Both are good. You meet others going through the same or worse pain than you, and you feel their pain because it's been your pain. Over the past 16 years of doctor's visits and physical and occupational therapy, I've met older people who suffer from multiple sclerosis. I've met other brain injury survivors, spinal cord injury survivors, people who suffered from lifelong conditions, people who've come out of comas way worse than me. From the elderly to little kids learning to walk with walkers around them because they were born with a disability. I've seen enough to know that suffering knows no bounds. It can happen to anyone and everyone. Life is cruel and incredibly unfair. You may see someone at the store and think they look like they have it easy and have nothing to worry about, but they could be going through utter hell. People can hide behind smiles pretty easily. I do it all the time. People can also be lifted up by the smiles of others. I have had bad days when nothing was going right, and I would get to the grocery store in a terrible mood. It would just be a bad day. All the stupidest drivers in Houston would have gotten in my way on the way there. And to top it all off, there would be no handicap parking spaces when I would get there. And often on a day when I'd be in horrible pain. I'd walk into the store ready to go off on someone, hoping I could just find someone who'd parked in a handicap space and didn't need it so I could just unleash the past decade of pinup rage and just beat the crap out of them. I'd be so close to losing it, only to have the smile and kindness of a stranger lighten my mood completely. And it could have gone completely the opposite way if the same strangers had rudely barked at me to get out of the way or glared at me or something like that. That's why it's so important to think about the people you pass every day and what they could be going through. So, while you might not go through something like I did, that teaches or enables you to feel others' pain and to remember that they're going through their own struggle. And I honestly hope you don't ever have to go through something like that or anything traumatic. I do hope that this video helps you to remember to start at least trying to put yourself in the shoes of others, especially before you go off on or insult someone. Remember that everyone has their struggle that they're going through. Try to put yourself in their shoes. Remember that in some way, shape, or form, they have their own bullshit to deal with. They might be battling severe depression or suicidal ideations, something I struggle with all the time, and we'll be talking about that a lot in the future, I'm sure. They might be worried about a health scare, a biopsy, or something that they're waiting on. They may have just lost a beloved pet. Their loved one may be battling the C word, the worst struggle imaginable. They might be losing their home, fighting with their spouse, or worried that their child is headed down the wrong path. I mean, there are endless possibilities. Just please try to remember to be kind to someone, because you have no idea the weight that could be on their shoulders. And you never know if your smile and kind words could lure them back off the edge, as many strangers have done for me before, or if your cruel tantrum could push them over. As some miserable old fucker did to me at the Kroger gas station not that long ago. I was so mad I went back to my parents' house and burst into tears. I'd called the guy an asshole. Don't worry, he deserved it. But I was so mad at myself that I hadn't thought to say, maybe next time don't park that piece of shit in the middle of the aisle so everyone has to squeeze around you to get to the gas tank. Not that a Mercedes SUV is a piece of shit, even an older one. I just really wanted to piss him off. But brain injuries don't exactly make you quick on your feet, literally or figuratively, especially when you're stressed because someone's going off on you. Fortunately for me, I was headed back to my parents anyway, so they were able to talk me down. Daddy said, if that ever happens again, you tell him to wait there and call me. I want to have a talk with him. And my mom said, new family rule. You only apologize to someone once. If they don't accept it, then fuck them. She said that after she'd learned I'd apologized multiple times for bumping his mirror with mine, only to have him keep being an asshole. Even though he looked down and saw my cane and crippled arm and leg. Quick tip, when you can visibly see that someone has enough shit to deal with without having to put up with yours, try not to be a complete dick. I told my parents I was just so proud of myself for calling him an asshole. That's not something I usually do. I walked over and looked at his mirror and said, "Your mirror is fine, by the way. You don't have to be an asshole about it." Yes, I am telling you that it's important to be kind to people. But at the same time, don't let people treat you like shit. An old fucker that miserable's heart ain't gonna grow 3 sizes just because I turn the other cheek. He's gonna keep being a miserable old turd. Sadly, if he does go through something that enlightens him to the plights of others, opens and deepens his apparently non-existent empathy, and shows him the importance of kindness, I don't think he's going to get much time to put it to good use and make a positive impact on the world. I just feel bad for his wife and family having to put up with him. Unless he'd recently lost his wife, and then I'd understand him being an asshole more. See, that's what I'm talking about when I say trying to put yourself in other shoes.